Namaskar. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Editorial Edge, the daily news analysis that is brought to you every morning at 8 a.m. thanks to the efforts of StudyIQ IAS English. I am Bhuvan Apurvaja. Once again, I welcome each one of you who's joining me live this Tuesday morning, as well as those who will be watching this through the course of the day and in the days to come. Once again, I welcome each one of you. Good morning. And if you're joining me, well, quickly, just if you can hear me all right, just leave me a message on the comment box. It will be of great help to me. Okay, if you can hear me all right, if everything looks okay to you, all right. Okay, so without wasting time, because already we have overshot by 2 minutes. So we have two important topics today. Okay, as usual, we will do the whole prelims to interview journey for those two topics. The first one is a topic related to economy and is to do with the GSP status. Okay, so we'll have a look at the GSP status. What exactly is the GSP status? What is it about? How is it different from GSP? What is GSP plus? Good morning, Bulbul. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so we'll just go through the GSP, GSP plus, and the EBA. If these are completely new terms to you, don't worry. In the course of the next 30 minutes, you will be introduced to these topics and you will understand what's the difference between each of them, what's the consequence of having a GSP status or getting like not having a GSP status. It's quite easy, quite simple, but from the mains perspective as well as from the prelims perspective, because questions can easily be formed. You know, in the past days or in previous years papers, you must have seen questions on MFN status, most favored nation status. Okay, so this is again to do with that. So we'll understand GSP versus GSP plus, the whole conversation around that is my topic one for the day. And second one is to do with XC2 conservation. Okay, because more often than not, students are very well versed with the in situ conservation or the techniques of in situ. So you will have ample information about, say, what is a national park, what is a biosphere reserve, what is a wildlife sanctuary, protected area, all of that. Okay, that is easily understandable. There's not a lot of difference, minor differences here and there. But XC2 conservation, okay, that is something again not many students know about. So if I ask them what is the CZA, yes, what is the CZA, which body is this, what work does it do, what are the XC2 projects being run by the CZA, okay, then well obviously many students will be flummoxed. They will not know the answer to this. Okay, so we'll have a look. Good morning everyone. Priyanka, Rajan, welcome everyone. So we'll have a look at what CZA is, what is the XC2 conservation, where are the major projects of XC2 conservation being done in India, what are the challenges, okay, what are the challenges. Instagram ID I will share, Ankit, I will share. Just wait for a minute and I will give you all the details, okay. So very important to understand, especially from the exam perspective again, because most of the students will be very well versed with the in situ conservation, you know. And so if you do not know the difference between those two terms, in situ versus XC2, don't worry, you will understand that too. However, we should have a look at this. Again, if any of you know about, no, it's not core zone area. Okay, Rajan, it's not core zone area. I'll tell you, it's an organization and it's called the Central Zoo Organization. Okay, CZA. So what does the Central Zoo Authority do? Sorry, CZA's authority. Central Zoo Authority do. Okay. What is the scope of its role? What are the projects, the major projects it is running? And more importantly, what are the challenges that come with XC2 conservation? Okay. So we'll discuss that very quickly from the mains perspective. Lots of questions, lots of analysis is there. So we'll quickly jump into it. Obviously, we'll do all of this. This is a part of every question, every lecture that I do. Without these, there's no point. It's a monologue. Okay. Fine. So we'll straight away jump into the first topic, that is to do with GSP. And let's look at these questions, guys, very quickly. From the mains perspective, here is the first question for you. Okay. Especially for those of you who are writing mains this year, after the results were announced yesterday, have a look at these questions. Figure out if you can at least start to form the opening link of your answer. Where would you begin your answer from is the question, you know. So let's look at the question first. Support programs for developing nations must comprehensively address not just structural reforms in the economy, but also greater protection of human rights. Comment. So it's essentially talking to me about support programs which are the grant programs or the aid programs that are run by these world organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, and all of that. So their support to a country, whatever country, okay, that has to factor in two things. One, that yes, that has to be followed by sustainable structural reforms so as to enable sustainable economy. Okay, you can't be asking for aid every year. So you need to make some changes so as to be self-sufficient, self-reliant at least. Okay, and at the same time, the money that I give you, so one obviously I'm expecting that as a country, if I am IMF and if I am giving you money, one I'm expecting is that you will have some kind of reforms so as to not come back to me for money again. And secondly, that money that I give you should not be used for, say, nefarious purposes. That it should adhere to the international norms of human rights. You should not be doing something that is considered violative of someone's personal rights, human rights. Okay. So that is necessary, that interlinking between economy versus human rights debate. So we'll understand which country I'm talking about and which article I'm referring to. So we'll have a look at this. Also, if you know the answer to these questions, guys, feel free to answer in the chat, okay? Because these are good questions. These are questions that you will find more often than not getting asked in the mocks or previous year questions. So which of the following are published by the UNCTAD? UNCTAD is the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Okay. So it publishes a lot of reports. Again, reports considered to be a key area, focus area. You need to remember which organization is publishing which report. So World Investment Report, the Least Developing Countries Report, Technology and Innovation Report. If you know the answer to this, type in the chat box. And at the same time, let's look at this now. The GSP. GSP allows the exporter country to pursue sustainable development in lieu of structural changes in its economy. India's GSP status was revoked in 2019 due to price control on cardiac stents. Identify the correct statements. Right now, if you do not know the answer to either of these, don't worry. You will know in 20 minutes. Okay? So let's go forward. If you know the answers, guys, I'll be happy to have them in the chat box. Fine. So straight away jumping into the first topic now. The GSP is essentially a short form for this. The Generalized Scheme of Preferences. Okay. So straight away you will know it's a scheme for preferences, which means you're giving priority to something or someone over something or someone. Straight away the name is indicative of that. So now let's look at this. The European Union's GSP. Please understand, the GSP is a mechanism that is employed by Western countries. Okay. So Europe has its own GSP. America has its own GSP. It's the way they engage on an economic level with the developing countries, outside the remit of, say, what World Bank or IMF is doing. Okay. So the European Union's Generalized Scheme of Preferences, it removes import duties from products coming into the European market from developing countries. Straight away, very simple. That you don't have to pay duty if you're sending goods to me from a poor country. Now the GSP, what does it do exactly? It helps developing countries through these things. Poverty, creating jobs based on international values and principles. See, this is the key word here. So I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give money to a least developing country or a developing country. However, that money does not come to you unsecured. There is a certain guarantee behind it, and that guarantee has to be that your actions should be in consonance with international values and principles. That you should not be doing something like labor laws are getting violated or human rights are getting trampled. Okay? So all of this has to be included in the actions of the receiver country if they want the money of the donor country. Okay? So this is it. This trade-off is there, guys. All the GSP asks you to do is, if you want our money, make sure that your actions are in consonance with these social principles. Okay? The GSP focuses on social change. For example, if you go and get money from IMF, IMF asks you for what? For structural changes in the economy. If you have looked at, say, the Pakistan IMF whole debate that is going on, IMF was essentially saying that, hey, Pakistan, if you need my money, Go ahead and do these particular 5 things. Hard decisions you'll have to take. It will not help you in the short term, but in the long term, you will not have to come back to me to ask money again. Pakistan couldn't do it because of their own compulsions, okay, whatever reasons, XYZ reasons. But then IMF focuses on structural changes in the economy. Something to do with in the economy, IMF will be there. However, the GSP has got nothing to do with economy. They say that if you want my money, we'll make sure that your policies, your actions are inclusive of these ideals. Which means, when I go back to this question now and have a look, GSP allows the exporter country to pursue sustainable development, correct? In lieu of structural changes in its economy, no. Not in the economy. That its actions should be inclusive, it should be human rights oriented, all of that social impact has to be seen through the actions. So which is why the statement gets incorrect. Because the structural changes in the economy is the remit of the IMF. They can ask, how they asked India, open up. How they asked Pakistani government, do these things. Structural changes in the economy, okay? So know this difference straight away. So next, going ahead in the GSP discussion, it's an umbrella term. Firstly, it's a bigger holistic concept that comprises the bulk of preferential schemes, okay, which are granted by the industrialized nations to developing nations. So you have all of these, MFN, this, that, whatever you could think of, they all come under the GSP. MFN is a part of the GSP. Now, the idea of granting developing countries in the markets was first presented in the UNCTAD. They came up saying, you know what, back in the year 1964, okay, long before you and I were born. So the UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, they said that, well, hey, if you want my money, what essentially is needed is that the richer countries should help the poor countries. Let there be a one-way flow of capital, of some sort of financial incentives, so that they can also develop themselves. So the UNCTAD came up with this particular idea, and interestingly, this was adopted right here in New Delhi. Okay, GSP, the generalized scheme of preferences, it was adopted right here on this very area where we are in NCR in the year 1968, 4 years after the conference. And thereafter, after another 3 years, it was finally put into operation. Couple of things only have to remember. First, GSP has to do with social impact. Second, done by the UNCTAD, not IMF, not World Bank, not any other organization. And UNCTAD had a meeting in New Delhi in 1968 where this was adopted. The key word being adopted, operationalized later, 3 years later. Okay. If you are writing down notes, now would be a good time. Obviously, I'll be sharing all of this on my Telegram channel. But now would be a good time to just write down keywords. So GSP has to do with social impact. IMF has to do with structural changes in the economy. If you know just these two concepts, the question will be easy for you. Okay. So now that you've understood this, let's go forward and have a look at the reports of the UNCTAD. So many reports. Okay. All of these reports necessary. Obviously, you'll have to mug them up. There is no analysis to provide here. Okay. So, Investments Trade Monitor Report, World Investment Report. Essentially, if you look at all of these guys, what the common theme is that it is to do with economy plus development. Okay. Which is the remit of the UNCTAD. Okay. If you look at all of these, investments to do with economy, information technology to do with development, technology innovation, development, commodities development, trade development. So the key word to remember, say, particular reports that are published by the UNCTAD, one way to remember it is that its remit, its responsibility, its mandate is just to do with economy plus development. Nothing to do with, say, structural changes that, you know what, GSP is asking you to do this. Remove your CAD, reduce your CAD. No. GSP won't do that. Okay, GSP will just say, hey, are you killing your minorities? That's wrong, I'll stop your money. Or hey, are you going to launch this project without having an environment assessment report? I will not give you money. That is the concept that GSP focuses on. Okay. So now the three types of GST, very quickly we'll have a look. The standard GSP, the GSP plus, what we are talking about today, and there is something called everything but arms, EBA, everything but arms. Three concepts, quickly have a look. So standard GSP now. What is standard GSP? For low and lower middle income countries, okay, where you are given a partial or a full removal. So on the tariff line that you have, you will be given discounts, okay. So you will have either like a full removal of custom duties. You don't have to pay custom in the importing country. When you export your goods, you don't have to pay customs, or you will have to pay lesser amount of customs. On top of that, the amount that you are given as rebate or discount, that's on at least 2/3 of tariff lines. What are tariff lines? The good rates that's happening, okay. The particular route that you're taking, the particular amount of goods that you are setting. So if you are sending, say, 100 goods from, say, country X to European Union, okay, on at least 67, you will have discount of at least 50% or more, 100%. This is the breakup. So you realize how beneficial it is if you don't have to pay customs. Anyways, you're saving a lot of money. Your traders are saving a lot of money. Your competitiveness in the market is better. You're able to compete against more established countries with your products because they are cheaper. Okay. So developing countries are automatically granted GSP. They can be automatically granted, guys, if they fulfill a certain criteria. Okay. So what are the criteria? First, if you have an income level below upper middle income by the World Bank. So the World Bank releases this report, and if it says that, well, here, this particular country, its income level is below the upper middle income level, then they qualify. Or the second criteria is that they do not have any other agreement, any free trade agreement or any bilateral agreement wherein they have any trade benefit. Essentially, what is it to do? Now understand from the larger concept. If you are a small nation, okay, and if you want entry into the European market, obviously you are competing against, say, China, against India, against USA, against the major powers. These countries have money to burn. These countries have already set supply chain routes. Your small country, for example, Kailasa, for example, let's take that example. If that person now wants to go ahead and set up his own trade route, so if he is given this GSP, then he is able to compete against these three. However, will he qualify for GSP? No, because he is not inclusive. His social impact is zero, in fact negative probably. Okay. So that is necessary, that your social indicators should be good, and on that, if that is good or satisfactory, then you will be able to compete with these kind of entities, given that you will have access to GSP, the generalized scheme of preference. Now you have the next one, which is GSP plus. Okay, GSP plus, special incentive for sustainable development and good governance. See, guys, all to do with social impact, GSP, which is why very important. It's a very good fodder material for a good prelims question, Straight away when you see generalized scheme of preferences, if I just mention the full form in the question and then after that frame the question like the way I did, half the public, those who do not know or probably will be tempted to guess, will get it wrong for sure. Okay. So GSP slashes these same tariffs to 0% for these countries. So here you have either partial or full removal. In this case, 100%. You don't have to pay any custom duties at all if you have covered under GSP. Fine. And now you look at this. There is a carrot and stick approach. Implement 27 international conventions related to all of these. If you do these, and if you are a vulnerable low income and this income country, you get 100% rebate. 100%. You go, send your goods to European Union, no issues. Okay. So this is the difference. Here, the only difference is that it could be partial or it could be full. Here, 100% rebate, GSP plus. Here it is for low and lower middle income countries. Here it is for vulnerable countries, the LDCs, the least developed countries. Okay. So you can think of, say, the most vulnerable countries around the globe. if they have good social indicators, or if they are putting in effort, if they have laws and policies that cover this particular, then they qualify for GSP plus. Okay. And finally, you have the EBA, the everything but arms. I will send you, Bulbul. I shall send you. Don't worry. I'll make sure I'll send you everything, guys, today. Okay. So EBA, let's look at this, everything but arms. As the name tells you, you will get every access except arms and ammunitions. Okay. For least developed countries, for LDCs, providing them with duty-free, quota-free access for all products except arms and ammunitions. This you don't get. Okay. You want other infrastructure-related material? Sure, take. But if you want an AK-47, no. Okay. So these are the three types: standard GSP, GSP plus, and everything but arms. Now today's topic is about GSP plus and our neighboring country, Pakistan. Okay, their economy is in the doldrums, their social indicators are bad. So all of that now has led to the debate as to should European Union be giving them money, when clearly they are not using it for their own internal purposes, domestic purposes. They are misappropriating or misrouting the money to some other field. So how fair is it that European Union should give them money? Which is why the mains question comes up here. The question being, support programs for these countries must address not just structural reforms, but also greater protection of human rights. Now it should make sense to you, the question. Now the question of GSP will be clearer in your head. That yes, it's talking about GSP, and this obviously is to do with the other bodies. So all of these two entities that give money to poor countries, they should look at both the angles. How should they do it? That is the question about. Okay, I have broken down the question for you so it's easier for you to understand. And now let's look at how EU makes sure that this particular rule, that GSP, is being followed. If they are giving money, eventually there needs to be monitoring, no? They have to figure out that the money is being used properly or not. Okay, who is going to do it for them? So what they do is, they monitor and review GSP plus beneficiary countries, and they look at all of these again. This is the parameter on which they monitor: human rights, labor rights, environmental protection, good governance. Four-fold approach. Okay, only 4 areas the GSP plus covers: human rights, labor rights, environmental protection, good governance. That's all. Okay, so it is monitored. Who does the monitoring? By the civil society, okay, the European Parliament, European Commission, and representatives of the European Council. So you have host of these NGOs, okay, that are actually funded by the European Union. They collaborate with the European Union. So they will pay field visits. And it is called an independent assessment report. So in that independent assessment report, if that particular person, that audit authority, whoever has come from the European Union side, if the person or their group feels that, well, the money that was given to you, you have not used it well. You probably used it for some other purpose. In that case, straight away, your GSP plus recognition can be reconsidered. Which means this access to the market, this access to free money, essentially, that can stop. So now, in terms of the EU-Pakistan, because this is the thrust of our topic today, EU-Pakistan and the GSP plus conversation. Essentially, Pakistan gaining money from EU under the GSP plus program. But now, the question so arises that given Pakistan's political instability, given that it has another at least half a dozen problems that it has to take care of seriously, well, what is the rationale behind European Union giving them money, when clearly they are misappropriating it? Okay, they only escaped the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, if you remember, by the skin of their teeth. Just they managed to scrape through. So clearly the social indicators are not good enough. So why is it that the European Union is giving them money? So in 2020, the European Union accounted for 16% of Pakistan's external trade, while Pakistan was 0.3%. So it's a one-way trade. It's all happening from Pak to European Union. Okay. And post this GSP that was given in the last couple of years, Pakistan's exports have consistently risen, okay, because they had access to the market. So you see what's happening here now? Pakistan has better access to the European market. Its goods are traveling, it's getting the money from there, it's receiving concessions, and then using that leftover money for its other purposes other than investing in its population. You know, its health indicators are down, its social indicators are down, education is down, no political stability, democracy is a farce, pseudo governance, all of that is the fair accusation against Pakistan, but none of them are being addressed. Okay. So when you go forward, this is the question, guys. Okay. The question that we are seeking to address today. Jai Hind, guys. Jai Hind. So, should Pakistan's GSP plus status be reconsidered? The question that we are looking to address this morning now. So, if you just go back in the last 1 year, if you look at what all has happened, in 2021, the European Parliament adopted a non-binding resolution, okay, with overwhelming support calling for review of Pakistan's GSP status based on blasphemy laws and religious intolerance. You remember there was this anti-France Islamist protests that had broken out, okay, not just in Paris but across the world, and the same protests broke out in Pakistan also. But then things turned violent, and so the diplomats needed to be sent back home, and all of that happened. So the parliament adopted a non-binding resolution, essentially saying, should we be giving money to these people? Okay. The issues now that the country faces: honor killings, common; domestic violence, common; religious intolerance against women and men, obviously, based on religion, yes, happening. So all of these are clearly against the mandate of the GSP, those social indicators, the social impact that we talk about. The fourfold strategy that they employ, well, it's not being followed here, no? None of them. Where are human rights being protected? None. Okay. Look at these: rampant human rights violations, corruption, religious extremism, restriction on press, you can't dissent, violence against protesters, all of these. You know the whole story with the country, so I don't want to repeat it. In fact, they have, I think, a journalist who hasn't been found yet. You know, he's just vanished into thin air. And even then you have these press report, the index, they are higher than us apparently. Fine. Okay, whatever it be, who cares? So the thing is, this is the problem now, okay? They have so many problems, and yet European Union was giving them money, which finally they have awoken to and said, well, we should reconsider this. This is not working out, okay? So by granting preferential status to countries that violate basic standards, the Union risks jeopardizing its own principles and foundation. The European Union, which is the harbinger, no? They claim to be the harbinger of democracy. Yes? That we have Greece, and Greece is where democracy was born, and they are the ones from where it all originated. So if it was so, why are you associating with such forces who are clearly anti-democratic, anti-human rights? It obviously tarnishes the credibility of European Union also, right? Hi, Jyoti. Jai Hind. So at the same time, you also have countries, and deserving countries like Bangladesh, who actually invest a lot in their people. If you compare, say, Bangladesh versus Pakistan, since 1971, since Bangladesh came into existence, you will see Bangladesh is on an upward trend altogether. That they have done the exact opposite of this. Exact opposite. They have invested in their people, they have invested in infra, they have invested in their social structures, which is why they are a good candidate for GSP+, a deserving candidate. However, when they see that in spite of their hard work, you have this rogue country getting the status, clearly they are going to be disheartened. So this will lessen the incentive for countries like Bangladesh, even Myanmar to a certain extent. This was also being considered, that have performed well in several of these areas, including labor standards. So this is the problem. If you continue giving GSP money to the country of Pakistan, well, firstly, you are obviously tarnishing your own credibility, number one. Number two, you are disincentivizing countries like Bangladesh who actually have invested in their people. Number three, you are promoting anti-human rights regime or state, okay? That there is no guarantee of the rights of minorities, of their different groups that exist within the state of Pakistan. That the money, again corruption, that the money can be rerouted for terrorism or for extremism purposes. So these are the valid challenges, the valid issues that European Union needs to consider, and at a very urgent basis when it comes to Pakistan. Okay, so that is GSP, I think. So let's quickly have a look, guys. Let's have a look at this question now, and let me know the answer. While I have a sip of water, let me know the answer to this. Both this and this, please. Answers quickly. Okay. Which of the following reports are published by the UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development? Investment report? Yes. Least developed countries report? Yes. Technology and innovation report? Yes. Like I told you, the ambit is economy plus development. Okay. They will have reports either to do with this or this, nothing else. Okay. You will not find them publishing a report on, say, some environmental, sustainable, something, no. Okay. Their ambit is only that much. So which is why they do all three. All are correct. Okay. How about this? This is obviously incorrect. In lieu of the structural changes, no, this is not being asked. India's GSP status was revoked. Correct. In fact, I'll tell you in 2019 what happened was that the government of India decided that we will reduce the price of our cardiac stents, okay, that are a life-saving device. And obviously this upset the American cartel, the American government, because they were making huge amounts of money. So this whole thing obviously hurt their interests. At the same time, American government was asking for more dairy penetration in India. Okay. Milk. They wanted milk and milk-based products from their country to have a more prominent place in the Indian market. Now clearly these two things are not going to work out. Firstly, cardiac stents is, we have the largest population. It's a life-saving device. We went ahead and we subsidized the whole thing. Okay. At the same time, number two, when it came to this particular, the dairy products. So you look at how milk is essential to India, you know, that elections are fought on the issue of milk. Yes. In Karnataka recently, you had the issue, no, come up of milk versus the company of Karnataka versus the company of Gujarat. So milk is a very sensitive issue. Plus, it's an issue of trust with Indians, you know. So obviously, that would have reduced the competitiveness of the Indian dairy products, which is why Indian government didn't agree. So in retaliation, the American government essentially revoked India's GSP status. India used to get some these kind of export incentives. That was reduced. However, the best thing was that our bilateral trade, I forget the exact numbers, but the whole bilateral trade was to do with something around $5 billion. And under the GSP, we were getting an incentive only around $190 million. So it was like a drop in the ocean. You know, it really didn't matter to us in the long run, except that probably it hurt the sectors of which it was revoked. Obviously, there must have been some pitfalls of it for sure. However, in the larger context, because our economy is so strong and robust, we did not have to worry much about these $190 million. But if the same step were to be done with Pakistan, you understand that it's going to be a huge issue for them, right? So this is the issue now. This had happened, guys, okay? So identify the correct statements, only two. Okay, only two is the correct statement. This is incorrect because this is the remit of the IMF. All right. So that is to do with the generalized scheme of preferences. Okay. From the mains perspective, very important, especially from when you compare that you have to link economy plus human rights. You know, it's not just in isolation about an economy topic. It's also to do with a social impact to it. So have an idea. Expect some question that will probably go in this tangent only itself, you know. It'll talk about something that will be both structural plus protection of human rights. It'll include both. It'll ask you to analyze both, which means you will have to begin from the ambit of UNCTAD. You will have to begin from UNCTAD, then come to what GSP is, then speak about GSP plus, then talk about the social indicators, and then finally end with the contemporary example of Pakistan. If you were to follow this particular route, you are very close to a complete answer. So again, if any of you want to try this, I'd be happy to evaluate or probably help you frame a better answer. So you can join my Telegram channel, or you can leave me the answer in the comment box below, or you can mail me the answer also. So there are some students who take active interest and mail me their answers by the end of the day, which is good to see. And I'm helping them frame a better answer. Make sure that their concepts are clear. So anyways, if you're interested, do reach out. And for those who are asking where and how to join my channel, well, this is it. And this is my ID, guys. Okay. So if you can't scan it, well, this is where you will find me on Telegram. Okay. Join me there. I obviously share the PDFs of all the lectures that I do. And at the same time, there is a lot of content planned in the days ahead. Right now, though, the entire thrust is on making sure that this 1 hour in the morning is of maximum benefit to our students. Fine. So this is what I'm all planning. Okay. Once you join, it'll be fun. You'll understand that we don't waste time there at all. Okay. Now next, coming to the second topic, an interesting topic for the day is to do with XC2 conservation. I have around 20 minutes, so I will go straight into the topic. There's no point wasting time. XC2 conservation. Okay. The name itself tells you outside the situation. XC2. In situ, in the situation. Now, first look at the questions. Reproduction in captivity may play a significant role in the recovery of certain species for whom there are no immediate viable alternatives. However, it should not replace habitat and ecosystem preservation. Analyze the pitfalls of conservation breeding programs in India. Big question. Okay, you must have understood that this is a very convoluted question, but if you start to answer it, the answer will flow naturally. All it is asking you to identify is what are conservation breeding programs and what are the challenges with conservation breeding programs. What are conservation breeding programs? We will understand first. And then this question, any of you guys who want to, again, go ahead with these questions, let me know in the chat box. Conservation breeding programs are run by the CZA, which is, if you want to note it down, an important organization which has not yet been asked by the UPSC, but do expect questions because it's an organization that is to do with environment, and UPSC loves environment, rightly so. IFS officers are also to be chosen from the same prelims, which is why environment is of absolute importance. So this is the Central Zoo Authority, headquartered in New Delhi, okay, under the MOEFCC, which is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Thanks, Jyoti. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. My mail ID, well, this is my mail ID, guys. bhuvan.jha@studyiq.thecoms. Okay, this is my email ID. If you want to reach out to me, here I am available. Okay. So, conservation breeding programs are run by the CZA. The conservation breeding program for red panda is being run at PNHZP Darjeeling only. Okay. What is the PNHZP, guys? Yesterday's class, I think we discussed PNHZP also. The Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park. Okay. It's a zoo. So, the name is Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park. It is in Darjeeling. And the question is asking me whether the conservation breeding program for red panda is happening here. Okay. We will discuss both of these questions, guys. Which of the following are in situ methods? Let me know. If you know the answer to this, quickly let me know in the chat, guys. If you don't know, don't worry. In the next 20 minutes, you will know. Okay. So, coming first to in situ. Let's understand in situ very quickly. Okay. When we conserve and protect the whole ecosystem, okay, and its constituents, its biodiversity, so that is in situ. When we save the entire forest to save the tiger, see, or you are going after saving the entire river Ganga to save the dolphin. You must have read about the dolphin, some of the dolphins were recently lost, yes, in the river Ganga, the freshwater dolphin that we have. Okay, don't worry, Bulbul. We'll find out a solution and we'll give you the best content that is available. You don't need to worry at all. Okay, I'll in fact spell out my whole thing for you, and you can join in. Even if you can't join in, I'll give you whatever in material that you need. Don't worry about it. Okay. So when you are saving the entire forest to save the tiger, or when you are, say, having a program for river Ganga to save the dolphin, that is in situ. You are not removing that particular entity from its natural environment. You are trying to conserve it, preserve it in its own natural home. That is in situ conservation. Ex situ, when there are situations when an animal or plant is endangered and it needs urgent measure to save it from extinction, then ex situ conservation is employed, which means off-site. You remove that particular entity from its natural habitat, bring it to an artificial place, okay, and then run programs to make sure that it survives. And not just survives, but it thrives, that there is a certain level of sustainable population that is reached, a minimum number, okay. A critical threshold should not be crossed. So for example, if you have a particular species, excuse me, if you have a particular species, say X, okay. Now, if you have just 10 of them left throughout the world, clearly that's not a sustainable population. For example, if you have, say, 4 males and 6 females, okay, not a sustainable population. What essentially need is that if you have 100 samples, the division be 50-50, okay. That is essentially the way to a sustainable population, that you need both the genders in an equal amount to maintain genetic diversity. The lesser the number of the entity, the more chances of its extinction, which is why you need to quickly repopulate and maintain genetic diversity. There should not be no cross mixing, because then you will have weaker offsprings come up, okay. So ex situ, threatened animals and plants are taken out from their natural habitat and placed in a special setting where they can be protected and given special care. Okay, you have taken out the animal from the forest, brought it to a zoo, kept it in an enclosure, giving it regular food, regular medical care, all of that is being done. Now quickly understand what could be the challenges first. Think for a moment when you go to a zoo and when you look at an animal there. For example, the Royal Bengal tiger you see there. Okay. Compare the Royal Bengal tiger of the zoo to the Royal Bengal tiger of the Sundarbans. What differences would you find? Obviously, this one will be getting good food, good nourishment, good medicines, everything. And yet, it will not look as strong as, say, an animal in the wild. So, therein is the difference, guys. Okay. Huge differences arise in an animal's behavior when the animal is kept in captivity. It is also called as captive breeding, okay. This conservation breeding program, the CBP, it is also called as captive breeding. If you want to understand it in one term, no? Captive breeding. So what could be the challenges, we'll understand. So what are the examples of ex situ now, where you have taken out the entity from its natural habitat and kept it in another place for conservation purpose? Zoological parks, not a part of the forest. Zoos essentially. Okay. Botanical gardens. Again, the plant, the seeds, the flora, all of that, which would have existed in the wild, in its natural state, you have taken it out, made an artificial space, gherowed it with, say, a good boundary wall, and then planted them in a hope that they will repopulate, that they will be conserved and preserved for the future. So, botanical garden is an ex situ. Okay. Wildlife safari parks. Remember, safari parks. Not sanctuaries, not national parks. They are in situ conservation because you are protecting the whole area and the biodiversity that exists within the area. Okay. Seed banks. Okay. So you have Svalbard, no? In Norway, I believe. That is an ex situ site now. See? Because you have seeds from across the world that have been removed from their original place and taken to Svalbard. You must know that there is a global seed bank that is in Svalbard. Yes. So it is an ex situ conservation site. So in recent years, you have had ex situ conservation sites that have advanced beyond just keeping them. You are also looking at cryopreservation now. Okay. That you are hoping to make sure that you can freeze the gametes and use them for the future. Exactly how you see in movies, guys. Yeah, same thing is happening here. You are saving species and their existence for the future. Why is the global seed vault in Svalbard important? Okay, go and read about this if you don't. The global seed vault. Okay, it is in Svalbard, Norway, wherein seeds of each and every species that have been found so far, they are stored there for posterity, so that if one day doomsday comes, well, at least we have one original sample left. Okay. National Gene Bank, which is again in Delhi, I believe, yes. The National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, well, it coordinates the genetic sampling for seeds. Okay. Caesar Day does it for the animals. This particular body does it for the plants. Fine. Now let's look at the challenges very quickly. Very quickly we'll understand now. Now that I've given you the problem, the whole association of conservation breeding programs, now let's look at the challenges that come with it. Number one, you cannot establish a self-sufficient captive population. Keyword being self-sufficient. More often than not, what happens is that you run a conservation breeding program for, say, red panda. Okay. So you bring in, say, you have a male and a female, then you breed them, have, say, another set of, say, 4 pandas that have come up. Then after that you have another panda, you go ahead. Eventually, suppose you have 16 pandas that you have come up with. Now you have to release them in the wild. What happens is that because these pandas have never been in the wild, they fail to adapt to the wildlife. More often than not, they're hunted by even the low-level predators. Forget the high-level predators. The low-level predators only will eat them. Why? Because they're inherently domesticated. They are used to their food being served to them by the zookeeper. That when they fall sick, oh, the zoo veterinary guy will run in with an injection. Ki, haan, theek hai, let's get him up. In the wild, there is none of that. You have to develop your natural immunity. So, this is the problem. Poor success in reintroductions, like I told you. Reintroduction is when you move them from the zoo to the jungle again, to the forest again. Okay, the moment you do this, you find that it's not happening. See the example of the cheetahs. Why is it that's happening? Okay, because probably they're not able to adjust, or they're lacking some sort of immunity, or they're not able to tolerate the heat. So many reasons could be there, no? So the problem is that these reintroductions often are a loss-making business, or they just don't work out. Essentially, there's no profit loss here. They just don't work out. Okay, high costs. Imagine now a simple zoo with a particular breeding program for, say, red panda. Okay, you are going to have money coming in not just for their food, but money coming in for their medicines, for their population, for their reproduction. So much of investment you have to do. You have to make special enclosures, okay, so that they do not get contaminated. Continuous monitoring of them. All of that has to be done, and in the end, once they're reintroduced to the wild, they die. So this cost-benefit analysis has to be done, you know, that whether after all of this investment, is the purpose of ex situ conservation being fulfilled? Is it happening? Are we actually going ahead and succeeding in our aims to have a stable population capable of adjusting in the wild as naturally as, say, a wild animal? No, you can't do that. You can't replicate. You can't train a wild animal after having domesticated it and then saying, okay, go in the wild again. It's going to be a hard adjustment. Okay. Similarly, domestication. They're used to getting food in their plates. Okay. Preemption of alternate recovery efforts and disease outbreaks. So one single disease, and suddenly these 16 samples of red panda that you had, all of them are dead. All of the 50 crore that you spent on this particular project, all zero. What's the point? That's not to say that ex situ conservation does not have its uses. It's an extremely useful concept. However, the challenges of ex situ is something that not many would know. Okay, in situ, students know like that. They'll tell me core area, buffer area, transition area, wo rat ke rakha hai. Ask them about ex situ, they'll not know. So this is it. Okay. Quickly, let's look at the major sites, guys, because some of the sites are important for you to realize and understand here. One is obviously, just 4 or 5 I'll introduce to you. One is obviously the red panda. Okay. Like I told you, it is happening in PNHZP Darjeeling. Okay. The Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park. Okay. It's a conservation site. Conservation breeding program is being run for the red panda. Okay. At the same time, you have for the one-horned rhinoceros. Okay, one-horned rhino. Where could it be, guys? Common sense. Which state is known for one-horned rhinoceros? Where do you find it most in India? Where is it? Tell me someone in the chat. Okay. Number 1 and number 2. There are 2 places where it is happening. One is in Guwahati Zoo. Okay. In Guwahati Zoo and in Patna Zoo. 2 places where the one-horned rhinoceros is currently undergoing conservation breeding program. Very important. Examples are necessary. Okay. Obviously, if you look at, say, the whole list of conservation breeding programs, we have around 30 of them. So it's physically impossible to remember. But what you can do is have a look at the major species. Okay. The major species will be useful for you. We also have for the lion-tailed macaque. Again, most UPSC aspirants will know where this is found. The serious ones for sure will know where it is found. So where is lion-tailed macaque being done? In Chennai Zoo. Okay. You will see all of these are being done at zoos. This is also Darjeeling Zoo only. Okay. So zoos essentially governed by the Central Zoo Authority. The Central Zoo Authority is a part of the WAZA, the World Association for Zoos and Aquariums. Know this, guys. Completely new information, but this will help you. Okay. World Association for Zoo and Aquariums. The Central Zoo Authority in New Delhi is a part of the WAZA. It also reports directly to the MOEFCC. A serving Indian Forest Service officer is the director of Central Zoo Authority. Okay. Okay. Very important. Go ahead this afternoon and read about the Central Zoo Authority. Go to their website. You will find that a list of 30 species along with where their conservation breeding program is happening is mentioned there. Okay. Have a look at that list. I have obviously just told you 3. There are at least 25 more. You don't need to know all of them, guys. Because essentially it's about correlation. If you know where the species is found, obviously they are not going to take a species that is found in, say, Western Ghats. They are not going to take it to Assam for their conservation breeding program. It would make no sense. So the area that particular species is found in, the conservation breeding program is happening around that area only. Red panda found in Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, now found in J&K and West Bengal. So they are doing it in West Bengal. Okay. There's also in Gangtok Zoo, you find red panda. But then the conservation breeding program is happening in Darjeeling. Okay. The lion-tailed macaque in the Western Ghats, Nilgiri Hills. So it's happening in Chennai Zoo. So it's just to do with, if you know the area of distribution of the species, it is getting a conservation breeding program somewhere around. That's the key trick to remember it. Okay. So I suggest go ahead, go visit this website of the CZA, look at that PDF. I will obviously share this PDF in my group also, in the Telegram group. And for those of you who are unable to scan, I will send you my email ID once again. Here is my email ID. Reach out to me if you can, bhuvan.jha@StudyIQ. I will also be making my Instagram ID by the end of this day, and I will be making sure that my students have access to my Instagram ID also. All right. Okay. So please make sure that you follow this topic up. And before I leave you, well, we are starting with a new particular scientifically enabled program for CSAT, given that CSAT was a dream breaker this year. Okay. I don't want to talk about the result. I spoke about it at length yesterday evening. But my God, the students that have not made it, in spite of having a good score in paper 1, it breaks my heart. But then that's probably a lot of it is on the student itself, that you assumed that possibly that CSAT was going to be asked a particular level. You're not wrong in your assumption, to be honest. It was unfair. I don't disagree there. But then the best way to go forward is to prepare well. Okay. Take it for granted that, well, CAT level English and maths are now going to be the part of CSAT paper, and prepare accordingly. There's obviously a case is put forth and all of the adjudication is to happen, and my sincerest wishes that the students get the truth and justice in this case. But for those of you who are going to attempt next year for the first time, you would be best advised to take CSAT very seriously, okay, or else it's going to shatter your dreams like you can't imagine. And so one way to do it is to have some guidance, and essentially I'll be taking care of the reading comprehension in this particular series. Okay, 100 classes beginning on the 30th of this month, classes every day from 3:30 p.m. We will have faculty for RC, for maths, for reasoning. I will be taking care of the RC. We have another meritorious, talented individuals, guys. You know, the faculty here, they might be very simple looking, but my God, you don't have the idea of the depth of knowledge that each individual possesses. So what you should do is harness their knowledge for yourself, get your doubts resolved, and make sure that you join us for this particular series beginning the 30th of June. And if you use this particular code, BA Live, well, you get 10,000 rupees off. And so you and I probably can share a cup of chai for me having saved your 10,000 rupees. All right. Okay. On that note, it's a wrap. But before I go, please make sure that you revise the GSP and the Caesar Day topic. It's extremely important. It's factual, but yet requires analysis. And so one would be best advised to go through it after the class is finished. On that note, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. I know, Adyant, I completely know. The CSAT was very tough. I'm not even denying that. But the best way is to prepare well going forward. There's no other advice that I can give you. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., same time. Do make sure that you join me. 2 more topics. We'll do the entire coverage from prelims to interview. On that note, it's a wrap. Thanks for joining. Bye.